Okay, so again, thanks for coming here. And as the talk says, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of the FreePBX project. I'll run through this part as well as some of the history fairly quickly because it looks like from the survey of the audience that there's some pretty good knowledge and history of the FreePBX project and where it's come from. I'll then talk a bit about what we've been up to in the last year and what we're looking at doing kind of in the next year and try to leave some time for some Q&A. And since we're the last talk, I'm willing to stick around for a little while for some more Q&A before I have to catch a flight. So, it's bottom line, FreePBX, it pretty much spans from hobbyists who need a PBX in their house, SOHO up to pretty large call centers and pretty big clients. It's a modular design. It's got a big ecosystem. We were just counting that there's over 120 online modules now, which kind of baffled me because if someone hadn't counted and they had asked me, I would have said, yeah, there's probably 50 or 60. So it's really exploded. And that's open source modules. That includes some commercial modules contributed from different places, kind of the gambit, all available online to download on your FreePBX system. There's also a large ecosystem of add-ons, other software add-ons, hardware, kind of, you name it, all around. And it's deployed globally. I think last time we checked, it was over 210 countries that we were able to pull up based on statistics of where these systems are. So it's quite prevalent. So if you look at FreePBX, the application is basically a software application that's built on your standard LAMP stack combined with Asterisk. I like to call it the LAMP bus stack. Okay, and that's the basic FreePBX application. There's also the FreePBX distro, which is basically, take a CD, plug it in, it's got all the LAMP stack, it's got all the dependencies and everything you need that delivers a working PBX. And there's a FreePBX distro, Asterisk now, PBX in a flash are some of the fairly well-known mainstream distros out there that provide FreePBX. And then there's the entire ecosystem. And that starts looking at software packages, whether it's the likes of iSymphony or FOP2 or lots of the other surrounding solutions that provide full solutions and are built and revolve around FreePBX and Asterisk. It spans from administrator tools to set up, monitor, configure, design your PBX system, all the way to the end user being the phone user, the person who uses the phone, who needs to set their follow me, or their do not disturb, or their call forward, or whatnot. So the tools that are provided are across the gamut. FreePBX provides, as a project, services. There's full solutions. There's an array of manufacturers. Has anyone not walked by our booth on the show floor yet? Probably not. So you can see there's, between phone equipment and all sorts of other manufacturers behind the project that we work very closely with as a project to deliver this ecosystem. Most importantly, I think I speak with all of us developers as you guys, the community. Okay, the community is what gives us guidance and helps give us the direction as to what to develop, which way to go, what you need to be successful in your businesses and applications with FreePBX. It's primarily GPL, V2 and V3, but much of it's going towards AGPL from the licensing, which is all under the GPL umbrella of licenses. Because of the modular design, it is possible to have modules within FreePBX that have other licenses. So, for example, some of the commercial modules, whether free ones or paid ones, will typically have other licenses that can coexist in there. The installed base is huge. It's always hard to count. It's well over 2 million. We see lots of new installations every month. We see explosive web traffic growth. We see, again, we're just community driven for what we do and what we develop. There's a full-time development team at Schmooze, as well as the development from the community. It also transpires in FreePBX. We've been through 14 major releases since the inception. FreePBX 12 is final. Honestly, it should have been final weeks ago. I made sure that the engineers made it final before this talk so that we were telling the truth. I think last count there was 10,000 beta users on FreePBX 12. We take final seriously in this project. We really put it through a lot. And real quick, you've probably seen Schmooze, gold sponsor here at this event. We are the stewards of FreePBX. We put a lot of resources into making FreePBX successful, dedicated management, community management, and then just the things like training and certification, and the highly specialized support that many systems integrators and resellers depend on when things get beyond what they need, and everything you need to be successful in adopting FreePBX and using it for your businesses and your livelihoods. And the community. We try to be very involved with the community. We were out here 6 weeks ago at FreePBX World. We're here. We try to show up at other places to interact with you. The bottom line, the community is, again, what really drives our direction, who we take the input from, going through the forums, talking to people, seeing what people want and need to give us the directions on what we want to work on. So let's go through a real brief history. How did all this start, right? So Mark was broke. He developed his own PBX called Asterisk, right? I think that was 1999. That was born. And 5 years later, there was this application called Asterisk Management Portal that was introduced to the world. It was very quickly incorporated into a project called Asterisk Now, which was a distro that basically took Asterisk and AMP and then kind of the parts that you needed and made it real easy. And it exploded. It was really quite a phenomenon to see how quickly people adopted this. The AMP/FreePBX open source developers quickly realized, really at the inception of launching AMP, that this was going to really explode. And in fact, as soon as they launched it, we went into a rewrite to redesign it to be modular, right? And really a lot of the foundation of what's there today so that it could grow and build as requirements were needed. By 2007, I know Rob and others who were here will remember the discussions that we were having as developers. I remember at one point, it was the middle of the summer, and I was talking to Rob, and it's like, we've got this perpetual release, which is never going out, right? All these businesses are out here, right? I mean, it's mainstream, it's serious. We need to get our act together, right? Not just tell people, oh yeah, go grab Trump, right? Go run that, it'll be fine. And so it was really, really a shift in focus in emphasis on stability, on quality, on good release management was put in place in that time frame. 2010 kind of went through some major changes in FreePBX. That's when the FreePBX distro was brought on. Up to that point, there was Trixbox, there was Asterisk Now, there was PBX and Flash, I believe, there was Elastix. But for a few reasons, we finally decided to make a distro. right? One of the reasons was we got tired of saying no by our community and user base when they said, you guys really got to do a distro. We're not getting what we need in this flavor, or this flavor, or that flavor. Security was another huge reason. Distros were flying around the internet, right? And people would do all the things. Let's put, firewalls and IP tables. But they'd also distribute these distros with default passwords, and guess who never changes their passwords when they install a system, right? So you looked at the hacks, and it was basically people were hacking systems because they knew the password, because they were the default password. So anyway, so we launched the distro at that time. We put changes in place to make FreePBX skinnable, kind of the foundation of our OEM program where you can completely rebrand and restyle FreePBX and kind of really take off from there. So that brings us to now. That brings us to today. So that's where the foundation was at. And what I want to talk about a little bit, I just want to kind of step through some of the highlights. I mean, we've been so busy as a development team. We've done so many things. I know I'll miss stuff, right? I apologize to you guys if I'm not hitting for those of you who are here, your favorite feature that we worked on. Kind of want to get through this and let you guys ask questions beyond here to kind of hit on what you want to know. So 12 major release just came out. Lots of internal updates. Something we're constantly doing in FreePBX is going through the internal structure. You saw the timeline. It's what, 9 years old now, right? Kind of taking out the parts that would otherwise be rotting in the insides of FreePBX and updating them, preparing them for future things that we want to do. So lots of that happened in 12. One of the things that I think is a highlight here is the amount of work that went into Asterisk 12 and now 13 support. Rob probably spent 6-8 weeks of his life working with the Digium team, turning PJ-SIP from an awesome prototype, right? And I'll emphasize prototype when we started, and we knew it. It was part of the plan to a very viable, usable solution, working really closely with them. So FreePBX 12 supports both PJ-SIP and SIP, right? You don't have to choose. You can mix and match as you might need. Huge amount of work in security around module signing and tamper detection was put in to 12. Who here has run FreePBX 12? Raise your hand or looked at it. Okay. Who here has seen notices about unsigned modules? Okay. Who here was familiar with the RCE that came out a week or two ago? Yeah? Guess how that was found? A customer, it got a customer system alarmed because of tampering, right? Because of these things that we put into the system. Yeah, which quickly got turned into a security ticket, but in any event, so a huge amount of work in that space as well as unit testing designed in to some of the key areas, framework and whatnot. In fact, some of the build process will run through some of the unit tests in critical areas before building and releasing the next one, right? And that'll continue to grow. Dashboard, so the dashboard panel with the color graphs and what's happening on your system. That's been completely rewritten. It's modular and pluggable, and you can move the widgets around. It's actually more mobile friendly. As your screen gets narrower, charts will stack on top of each other. So that's been rewritten. There's a lot of cool stuff there, and there's going to be more to come. Again, it was more of a platform that was put in place to enable a lot more future work in that space. Module admin changes. I think forever we've been being asked, I updated to a new module version, and I want to go back. How do I do it? Okay, module admin, amongst a lot of other changes in module admin, to a large extent it's been rewritten to take advantage of a lot of the new internal changes that we've made to improve the system, it'll let you go back, I believe it's 5 revisions of a given module. The other thing I don't put up there, we haven't really deployed and used yet, but there's an ability now to switch to a beta track within a module if there's a beta. So what that enables us to do is it enables us to bring new modules kind of mid-main release cycle, right? Put it through a beta process, let you try it out. If you don't like it or have problems, flip back to the production one, right? Without disrupting and putting you at risk of kind of committing to exposing your system to beta because of that one module you want to try out. Something that we just put live last night, I believe, is the ability to purchase commercial modules from within module admin. So you will be able to, from within the FreePBX GUI, if you load up a new system, you want to get Endpoint Manager as opposed to running off, going into the Schmooze portal, buying a license, going through what's a pretty clunky process, and we realize that, and there's efforts to improve it. This is one of the efforts. You can buy it right from there, and you can have it tied directly to your account and your deployment, or if you don't have one, it can all happen right at that point. So that's kind of some of the highlights on the FreePBX 12 side. Something that we are, continuing on, just within the modules, and I haven't even hit on all of them. So the Endpoint Manager, if you saw Luke's talk yesterday, basically a complete rewrite. We've taken everything we've learned, right, all the feedback we've gotten to go to the next step and make it that much more usable, that much more friendly, just kind of, again, taking all that we've heard from you and we've experienced to move forward. We announced a HA module, basically a turnkey HA solution at the last AstriCon, right? That's been in production now for 11 months. We've got HA solutions at customer sites across the globe. It's a great solution. It really takes what has always been a really complex process, typically creating more risk and help to customers who implemented it because they just kind of copied what a forum post said and didn't really know how to address issues when they really happened. And so it's all built in, as well as the potential back-end support and whatnot. We've got class of service module, something that the customer base has been asking us for a long time. Okay, class of service is beyond this phone can call that outbound route, but not that outbound route. It goes across the system as to what conference rooms or kind of you name it, page groups or feature codes or other things that they can access. And it ties in to things like the user control panel, which I'll talk about, and other areas of the system so that it all ties together. The REST apps that Tony talked about, if you were at the talk yesterday, for the REST phone apps that we have, true user management, to deal with things like users may have multiple extensions, users to log into a user control panel even though they don't have voicemail, right? Because the old ARI user control panel, it was kind of defined as if you have voicemail, you can come into this not that good kind of GUI to try to manage your system. So just kind of all proper that. And there are more. I mean, you download it, play with it, come talk to us at the booth if you've got particular interests to find out what else is there. Because I know I'm missing several. The user control panel, I think, is one of, for me, it's really the most exciting thing. We've been telling you guys probably for 3 years, it's been on our wish list, that we are going to replace the Asterisk recording interface. When I say ARI in the context of this room, it's that old user control panel. It was called Asterisk recording interface, different names like that, the place where you could go and look at your voicemails, try to look at your calls if it did a right job of putting your calls against the CDRs and all of that. So that has been a ground-up written from scratch application. Pretty much all of your Web 2.0 and event-driven Node.js, you name HTML5, WebRTC technology in there. Who here has played with the new user control panel? Just a few. You ought to come by and see a demo. I'll show you a few screenshots, but that just doesn't do it justice. Again, it's mobile friendly based on that, Twitter Bootstrap Framework Foundation. It handles everything from, your voicemail to your conference control to your find me follow or VMX configuration, presence, SMS in conjunction with the SipStation service if you're using SipStation, which is one of our SIP services provided by the FreePBX team. And more. I mean, the list goes on and it'll continue to go on because it's completely tied in and FreePBX modules deliver functionality to the user control panel. So if you haven't seen it, basic login screen, right? Very streamlined, whether you're logging in at your desktop or on your mobile phone, okay? Voicemail, right? I can record my voicemail if I've got a reasonable browser like Chrome or some of them right there through my browser, through HTML5, right? I can drag and drop recordings. I can create one voicemail greeting and drag it to the others. I can drag it from elsewhere. I can see my, kind of see my voicemails, deal with my voicemail settings, etc. All of my settings, right? My presence, my call history. With Fax Pro, I can look at all of my faxes, right? I can, some new modifications we put, I can actually get to the point of now see the progress coming from Asterisk, where it's dialing and ringing and kind of all of that. So, conference bridges, if you have Conference Pro or Class of Service, which restricts which conference rooms you can use, you can get the control and visibility of those conferences. I can see people, I can mute them, I can kick them. So again, all the things that an end user wants from their control, right, is the design goal behind UCP. So come by and have a look or download it. It's awesome work. Andrew, who had to leave earlier here, is the main architect on that, and he did a phenomenal job, and he continues to do that. So that's kind of a very brief what we've been up to. What's next? What are we going to bring you next? So one of the big things we want to work on 13 is to take what we learned in UCP. It's a much prettier, nicer, consistent, easy-to-use interface than FreePBX, right? We want to kind of take what we've learned there and roll it back and give a good facelift to FreePBX. It's more than just a facelift. I mean, a facelift implies you're not going to really get anything out of it. But consistency, usability, kind of all the things that we're learning from there that we want to roll back in where it makes sense. HTML5 recording. Why can't I do the same thing with voicemail when I'm creating a recording if I want to? All of that. We're going to continue to build on UCP. Contact management is something that Andrew is just finishing up or just finished in the last week, if not. It's just coming there. And that's integrating contact management not only in UCP and therefore in your presence, in your SMS messaging, but back into FreePBX, into your caller ID lookup things and wherever it makes sense to add that presence in once the user is able to put that information they need. XMPP chat he's working on. On the wish list, something that people have asked for a long time is time-based follow me. And that's not a UCP thing. That has to be done inside of FreePBX. But the reason we haven't done it is because it's a pretty useless feature if you can't give a good interface to the end user to control their follow me, right? Because you as an administrator do not want to be taking calls 24/7 by users every time they want to make a schedule change in their follow me, right? So this is the type of enabling thing that's going to let us now go back and put richer features in FreePBX, things that we've heard asked for, other cool things that people want. Collaboration tools, shared whiteboard, that sort of thing that we're looking at. And continuing with the technology, right? We'll improve on the mobile-friendly, more WebRTC, HTML5, more with Node.js that we've started with, et cetera. A couple highlights on a couple modules, and honestly, there's a much bigger list of things. I just don't want to sit there and put everything we have on our wish list and then come back next year and say, yeah, I told you it was a wish list, it wasn't a commitment. So, but a couple of areas, system recordings, really a complete overhaul of that module. Probably more likely FreePBX 14 because we're shooting for a quicker release cycle on 13 than we had on 12, so we can get some of those changes and consistencies out quicker. But the whole systems recording module, everything from, like I said, HTML5, make the recordings from there, easier management, multilingual support within recordings. If you've got a multilingual system so that it will work with that. So you can have different versions of your recordings for different languages, as well as different versions of the same recording that's actually different recordings, which there's a lot of applications that we hear from customers for that. Music on hold is not very intuitive. We get a lot of complaints about it. I know we all hate it as developers. So, a revamp of that, as well as making it a lot easier to deal with streaming music. Right now, you got to figure out a pretty cryptic, text box to put in, right? And it can be pretty ugly. It can be pretty flaky. So we've been putting a lot there to make it a lot easier. Known music sources that aren't going to get you in trouble, that work reasonable, that don't kill your system, etc. So there's a couple of the ideas in some of the module areas that we want to hit, basically. One thing that we're really excited about is something called M3, which is multi-system, multi-tenancy, basically. It's something that we are shooting to try to introduce, if we can, by the end of the year. It's work in progress. Basically, we've been hearing from you in all sorts of different flavors, I want multi-tenant system. And it seems like every person we talk to has a slightly different definition or version of what they want or what the real problem they're trying to solve when they say, I want a multi-tenant system. And what we've distilled it down for the most part is many of you, whether you're an ISP who wants to have racks of slices and be able to do easy management of those systems, or whether you're a reseller who has a mix of systems at different customer sites across the city, across the country, or across the world, or some mix between hosted and premise, you want the ability to manage those systems from a single place, right? Configuration management, upgrade management, security management, monitoring, right? Dashboard health control of your customer base. When needed, right? Secure remote connections with the full, SSH key and everything else management so that it's completely controlled within one place. So whether you've got 5 customers out there you're dealing with, or whether you've got 500 customer systems or more you're dealing with, that you can manage it from one place. You can get the access. You don't have to have a spreadsheet of 500 different systems and passwords and IP addresses and everything else. So that's something that we're working on. If that's something you are interested in or have more questions, by all means, come talk to us at the booth or ask questions. But that one's, again, something that we're shooting for to introduce, hopefully by the end of the year. So, in summary, we're, Schmooze as a company, we're completely behind FreePBX. That is who we are. That is our business, basically. We've got full-time developers. We work with and encourage and try to nurture community developers, right, to further the project. We maintain an infrastructure of dozens of geographically dispersed replicated servers, right, that help run and manage this project. And this is everything from the servers that you touch, like the mirror servers, to download online modules, or the Yum servers to update your packages, to the servers that are behind the scenes, whether they're there to build Asterisk RPMs, right? Security patches come out occasionally, as we all see from Digium, from Asterisk team. We usually have an RPM before they do. We always have a nice chuckle. I mean, we get along great about that. But we have a lot of infrastructure in place to support and run this project that we support and maintain and pay for. Dedicated ecosystem that we nurture, that we work with. These are other projects. These are manufacturers. These are all solutions and pieces that help you put together full solutions for the businesses that you're going after. Certification programs, training programs, highly skilled support services for those problems that get more specialized and harder than you have on your staff or in your organization to deal with. Basically, we are definitely the most prevalent open source PBX in the world, and I often question whether that just fits, if I really need to put open source in that name. So FreePBX is huge, and we thank you for helping make it that way, and keep giving us the feedback and keep us on track. So with that, questions? Oh, yes.
Is there any talk of putting like an open VPN embedded into the FreePBX software?
Is there talk of putting an open VPN?
Open VPN means a server type, literal one. Yes. It's on a featureless little part of sysadmin because unfortunately all that can't be done actually.
So that
people can't hear what you're saying, Tony.
So
yes, there is, and it's higher up on the feature list for the sysadmin module, which is a free module. It is commercial because some of the things we have to do with it didn't allow it to be GPL, because the sysadmin module's concept is to do things that the Apache user can't do with its permissions. One of them would be managing and setting up OpenVPN, and actually I think it's been assigned to you, hasn't it, just recently? So it's coming.
So yes is the answer.
Does FreePBX have control over the modules when they release the update?
Does FreePBX have control over the modules? I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Either the answer is yes, or I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
I think, which specific modules are you talking about?
In general, all of them.
So yes, FreePBX, the project, controls the release of any of the modules that are available online. There are modules out in the world that run on FreePBX that aren't online. We know of the existence of some of them. We always encourage developers, when we can contact them, to bring them into our Git repo and put them in where they make sense. I mean, there are some modules out there that are so specialized, right, that they don't make sense. They would be noise, they would clutter the system, they would be confusing. But those are super specialized modules. But for the most part, yes, we are in control of that.
Okay, so that means if we update the module, it's not going to break the system?
Usually. That's usually the case. We have a pretty good track record, right? It is software, right? We are human developers. Mistakes happen. We do have a lot of quality control, and the quality control is at different levels of intensity depending on what is changing.
If I may interject, Philippe did mention that we're doing unit test in FreePBX now. That's brand new in 12, and at the moment it covers this much.
Yeah.
But we do want to have it completely unit tested.
But
Things do break. We don't have to. Everyone knows software breaks. Bugs get introduced. That's the big reason in 12 we introduced the ability to roll back up to 5 versions of a module. So if you put something in, we missed something, or maybe it's breaking something custom you did, you can roll back that module up to 5 versions at any time.
I mean, the quality control when it comes to releasing new modules, right, is, the engineering will look at it. Is it actually changing something fundamental in the dial plan, right, in some core important area, right? That is going to go through an immense amount of scrutiny, right? Is it a CSS change to fix some relic, right, on a GUI page? It won't go through as much scrutiny, right? I would say historically there have been I can't remember the last time, I'm sure someone who got a lot of pain can, but I honestly can't remember the last time that we did an upgrade that actually broke the functioning of the PBX. There have been modules released that broke the GUI until we got an upgrade, so I'm not minimizing that. You can't make a change that could be a big problem, right? But the phone system is functioning. So,
is that any ticketing system available?
Yes. If you go online, it's all there. Next question.
Seeing version 12?
Today.
Because it's not on the website. It's only RC.
We probably haven't blogged it. It's released. If you go and do an upgrade, you should get the latest. If not, something's broken. What? Yeah. Right. Yeah, so it is final.
Whatever happened with FreePBX version 3 and your work with FreeSwitch? That was a big thing you were talking about at AstriCon 2012.
I think it was before 2012.
I think that was 2010, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was more like 2010. So, in a nutshell, that project was released to stand on its own because of a bunch of confusion. It got called Blue Box. It actually still exists. If you want more detail, come and talk to me. But it does exist. Questions?
Sorry about that. Do you guys plan on implementing revision controls in the actual PBX config? Like, say you have 3 operators that run a bunch of PBXs and, somebody makes a change and, it's screwed up. Recovery now means you go back in and try to figure out what they, somebody types a wrong email address or whatever.
Can I answer that one? Can I say no? Is that something for you, Tony?
Backup restore.
So one of the things we're toying with, I don't know if we'll get it in 13, but we're going to get the framework in place, and the ability that we will know through an audit log of everything that's changed. So at the very least, we can show you what's changed. But more importantly, I'd like to say, hey, that one retrieve conf, you hit that red apply config button at 4:05, I want to revert everything that did. Don't know how much will get done, but at the very least, we need to get the ability to see an audit log of what has changed. Yes.
Yeah. Question over there.
Actually, this may be a feature request, but a more modular backup, and I'll give you the background of it. We put a route in on all our boxes and a route in a trunk called drop. And it's a SIP trunk with no definition that basically it dead ends a call. And we put in all the Caribbean island cell phone prefixes because of a very painful experience over a weekend of somebody putting a box public. But it's really clunky to have a complete backup of the system that's really only there to restore those routes and those prefixes.
You want M3.
Yes, I do.
I'll just give Tony the mic again.
That's been in since 2011.
That does not stick out.
Yeah, there's in the drop down, the drop down where you can pick like local long distance. There's one that says export, one that says import. So you can export the whole config. You can buy me a drink later. I'll just hold it for a minute.
Questions? No more questions. You got everything you need to know about FreePBX.
I mean, you brought up M3. I mean, how's the model going to work with that, or do you know yet as far as pricing? I'm sure that's one of those, you know, I mean, is it based off number of units, flat fee? How's it going to all work?
It's a hybrid SaaS system, meaning the whole GUI front end will be in our data center across an HA cluster, but the logic side, so things like the VPN tunneling and the actual pushing configs and the monitoring will be on your own worker server that you'll join to our GUI, because we don't want all that VPN traffic for security coming to us. I don't want access to your boxes. So you'll have a worker server that pulls from our GUI looking for changes anytime you make changes in that GUI front end. And there's a light version that'll include up to so many servers you get free, and then after that it's just a, you know, some per month, $5 something a month fee per system type of application, a typical SaaS.
Right. I mean, marketing has not determined the full level of detail of it yet.
You mentioned on your slides you had a certification and a professional training. Is there any place on the website to find more about that? I was kind of browsing but didn't see any of it.
Yeah.
The answer was freepbx.org. Anybody else?
Question in the back.
What's y'all's stance on like third-party module repositories? For instance, I create my own specific module for a specific customer. Right now, the way it stands, I would have to go in and upload it, and every time I make a change or an update, I would have to go back in and upload it instead of just, you know, clicking the check for updates. Is there any sort of plans, or what are y'all's thoughts on supporting a third-party kind of repository?
Yeah, it's more complex than that, especially with module signing, which we're doing now. Now, saying that module signing is being brought up, this isn't to lock down FreePBX. I've got to make that really clear. It is purely there for integrity. The only reason that we haven't been clear about that is because it's so new. So in your situation, if you have module XYZ, and you want to run it on a 12 system, you'll need to sign it, or we will sign it, or something. There'll be something to make this easy for you to do. However, adding a new repository, it's actually really hard. Like, the amount of infrastructure we have behind the repositories is massive. And for a random person to just try and create their own repository is really hard. So, you could, but honestly, it's not worth your time. Sorry. Anyone else?
I got a question. What would be the process for somebody that has their own custom module that actually wants to get it into the regular distribution? Maybe it's more usable by more than one customer.
I know this one, but Tony wants to answer it. Oh, okay. We have a code licensing agreement as like Google, Facebook, with Hip Hop, Digium. Everyone has a code signing agreement in that you assign your copyright to Schmooze or... No, I'll let Tony answer it. He knows them.
You assign, just like Digium's, it's just you have to say you're the owner of it and that you're giving us a perpetual use of that material. And, I mean, literally we copied it from Digium. So you'd go open a feature request to begin with, and we'll send back, hey, you got to sign this form to send back to us, and then upload your module to GitHub. I mean, Scott over here does it all day long with Digium for 3 or 4 modules. It's pretty trivial, isn't it? And it's all automated.
Very easy. If you've used Git on GitHub, it's that easy.
Yeah. So then, and you know, once that's done and we have the module, then, you know, as I mentioned, if the module clearly makes sense beyond some ultra super specialized place, right, and we have the confidence that you are there behind it to support it, right? What we have, as a project, we are careful. We don't want to put modules up there, right, that are going to get abandoned, right, to make it easily available and adapted, right, and then the person, the author, kind of goes south, right, and there's no one to support it. Now, with that said, I mean, there are a lot of modules out there that has happened to, and we've adopted them and taken them in and provided that support. So it's really an evaluation process as to, let's look at this module, let's put it there. This is a great module, a great idea. It looks like it's not going to go and hurt and kill systems, but there is an assumed responsibility as us, the development team, when we make it so easy for any one of you out there to check for modules online, see a module, download it, and put it on your system, that it's not going to crash your system, it's not going to white screen it.
It's not going to leave a big gaping security hole in your system.
A module can kill your entire system. So, we do go through that, right? But we want more modules there. So we'll work with you, work with developers, if need be, and a lot of good developers, they come up with a module and it's great, and we put it there. So that's how that number got so big, from what we were all thinking was 60 or 70 modules to 120.
I'm astonished it's 120. That's really good.
So I think it's like 127, and that's just on the online system.